So I'm recording in progress. I just up front, you guys know the rule here. I can't bring any firearms into the place, which is just amazing to me because that's what this club's about. So I don't have much to do in terms of show and tell. A lot of talking, right? I did bring a few parts just so you might be able to see a few things. Most of you probably already own guns, and so this may be a help for you to figure out what helping a friend or something else like that in terms of how to fit or get a gun. To choose one. You guys already know me. I'm an ex-deputy sheriff from a million years ago. I've aged well, and currently now I'm run my own business. Instructing. I'm an FFL as well, and this year I joined the sheriff's posse and working with them. So we're having a good time. All right, today I'm going to cover what I'm going to talk about is how to choose the right gun. Right, there's a million things to think about when you do that. And this is in the context of civilian defense. Right? I'm not talking as a law enforcement frame of mind, although that overlaps. But I'm definitely not the guy to talk to about hunting or shotgun shooting, with birds or any of that kind of stuff. That's not my stuff. Right? My primary focus is tactical shooting, and that's where we stay. We'll go briefly on the responsibility of owning a firearm. Hopefully this is old news to most of you guys. We'll talk about the different types of defensive firearms. We won't get into a big debate about it. Choosing the right firearm for you, right, or who you're helping. And then lastly, every single time it goes along with owning a gun, you got to be prepared. Right, owning a gun isn't enough, and you'll hear that theme all the way through as we're talking about. So, all right, owning a gun 101. Right, safety is your prime directive. Right, that is. It doesn't matter what kind of gun you're dealing with or what purpose it's for. Safety is always the number one thing to deal with. Right, the next most important thing is why. Why are you getting a gun? If you're using it for concealed carry, if you're going to use it for home defense, if you're going to use it for plinking, it really depends on what you're going to want to use it for. As you see, I got a list there: target, sport, hunting, defense, tactical, and duty. They're all slightly different. We're dealing with guns, of course, but it's focusing on why you want to get the gun and what purpose is that. Today we're talking about basically defensive context. Right? The principles when we get into it on the pistol will be the same no matter what. Firearm ownership principles, that means keeping it safe and securing it basically. That applies for all firearms. Doesn't matter whether it's a shotgun or a little tiny Derringer, right? You got to make sure that's safe. And then today we're going to be talking about choosing a pistol that's right for you. And why? Because deciding getting a pistol to fit you is the most difficult firearm to fit to you. Everything else is pretty much out of the box, make a few adjustments and tweaks. But pistols, oh my gosh, there's a huge range of things you need to think about when you're deciding which pistol is going to work for you or someone else. Right? And I'll stop just for a second and make a comment about less lethal. Right? You probably heard the ads on the radio for Byrna. I was a Byrna dealer and actually stopped doing that. And then I can't remember the name of the other one. There's another company that competes with Byrna, and they're basically pepper ball guns, right? They can shoot a plastic kinetic round, a hard plastic ball. They're 68 caliber, like same size as a paint gun, they run about 350 to 400 feet per second. It's enough to really hurt if you're in a condition where you can actually feel pain, right? A lot of the guys we deal with don't, right? And so it's doing that. And they make projectiles that not just solid plastic, but they make them that will crack open it, and then you got OC or pepper, right? Pepper spray. The reason I stopped doing Byrna sales is because there's such a fine line for civilians. There's such a fine line between having to use a pepper gun on someone who's attacking you and crossing that line into where you need to use lethal force, right, is so thin that if you're betting your life on a pepper gun saving you instead of you got to do what you need to do, that's where you get that false sense of security, right? You'll hear on the ads, Sean Hannity drives me crazy. It's non-lethal. No, a less lethal gun can be lethal, right? When we learn about using them in law enforcement, we're not allowed to shoot towards the head, right? Or the neck, right? Because if you get hit with one of those things in the face in the right spot, it can kill you, right? And it's like getting hit with a hammer, right? And then it only works, by experience, it only works about 75% of the time. You'll have 25% of the people coming at you or being aggressive who are feeling no pain, and it's not going to stop them, right? They'll keep on coming. And then you pull out something that's not a gun, but it looks like a big mother gun, right? And that guy goes, holy crap, they're pulling it in at me. I'm going to pull my gun on them. And so for a civilian, I didn't want to do that. In law enforcement, we have lethal backup. We got it right there on our hip, right? And that's okay, because definitely want to go the escalation of force if we have to. If I have the opportunity to stop someone and not have to use lethal force, great. But that's why I said, it's always easy. If you got a backup, great. It's a good thing. I've seen videos of people chasing the guy trying to steal their catalytic converter with a paint gun. Pretty fun to watch. Great, but that's really, when you think about what is your line of self-defense, that's really why I kind of go that way. Fantastic for law enforcement. I don't even want to use pepper, and I don't carry it. And I'm sure the other guys don't either, who are doing it. Because what happens when you have to control someone and you spray them with the OC gas, or you shoot them with the pellet? You get gassed. And who's the sane one in the deal? You are, right? So you're the one who's going to be feeling the pain, you can't see and all that. So my preference is a taser. Right? Taser is pretty effective. It'll still lock up a guy. I've seen guys take them and rip them right off, so it doesn't always work, but that's the thing. So enough said on less lethal weapons as we go. Okay, rolling along. Principles of gun ownership. You'll hear every instructor will always come up, first thing I talk about is safety, right? There's 4 universal rules that every instructor talks about. I got them down to one word. So the four one words, right? Loaded. What do I mean by that? Anybody?
Always assume every weapon's loaded.
Exactly. Always assume the gun is loaded, even if you know it's not. You treat it just like it's going to be loaded. So if I have a gun, I'm going to treat it. I'm not going to do this. Is it loaded? Yeah. I'm going to treat it just like it's loaded. My finger's never on the trigger. I'm always going to be pointed in a safe direction. Right? Second one, finger off the trigger. Never have your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot and you're aimed, right? Point it at what you need to point it at. Do not point it at something you don't want to destroy, right? And then the last one is know what you're shooting at, right? Know your target, what's around it, what's behind it, right? And that includes, might be going through a wall, what's behind the wall, right? And doing that. So those 4 rules are really guiding the behavior when you have a firearm all the time. If that gun goes out of your control for even 30 seconds or so, you hand it to someone else and take a look at this and then they hand it back to you, check it. Is it clear? right? Double check. I mean, we do this on the range all the time in classes. I'll hand the gun to someone, or they'll hand me their gun, they want it back. I expect them to check it, right? And to run that, right? Operating, this is just principles of any gun. You need to know how to load it. You need to know how to rack it, check it, clear it, deal with malfunctions, and you need to know how to maintain it, right? It's just like owning a car. You need to know how to drive it and all the rest, right? But with guns, it's even more important because you need to know how they work. You need to know how to function them when you need to. So that's all under operating it. Carrying it, we're talking about self-defense. So guns and holsters go together. It's a system that you're buying, right? Do not use the holsters that are one size fits all, right? The holster is designed to work with the firearm that you have, and then it depends upon what you're going to do. You also have to consider speed of access. How fast can you get to the gun if you need to? Whether you wear it on your body or off the body. And it needs to fit your wardrobe and style. Yes, if you're going to wear it, you got to be comfortable too. Right? Storage is the other principle. You got to make sure you control the access, and everybody knows what that means, right? If you got kids running around, you got grandkids, whatever, showing up at your house, they better not have access to that gun, right? So this thing called staging. A lot of people have multiple guns staged throughout the house, right? Bad guys can find them really fast, right? But staging is a legitimate way to do it, but make sure you have control of the access that you're dealing with, right? And then there's a way of carrying, I'm talking pistols, right? So there's a way of carrying pistols, and actually it works with rifles as well. Is in your house, if you're storing the gun and it's basically ready to go, I recommend, and most people recommend, that you store it in what we call Israeli fashion or aircraft ready, right? That means a loaded magazine, but nothing in the chamber, no round in the chamber. What that requires you to do, if you've got it staged and it's staged Israeli, then what you're going to do is you're going to pick the gun up and you're going to have to rack it. That takes you a half a second. Now you're thinking, you got to do something. You don't want to just pick it up and start blasting away, right? No one would do that anyway, but that's the reason why you want to do that. When we work on duty, you don't do that, right? Yeah, the Israeli military still runs around and does that, but they do that for a reason. They're dealing with 18-year-olds who don't have any idea what they're doing, and they're carrying pistols that are not drop safe, so they want to make sure that they do that. But as if you're carrying concealed, you need to have one round in the chamber. You do not want to sit there and I got 2 seconds to react to this guy and I got to rack it. Not going to work. So, and I'll mention this. Modern day pistols are safe, right? In the holster, they are safe, right? We're going to talk about a few that aren't, but as a general rule, as long as your gun is in the holster and safe, you're good to go, right? So you don't have to worry about it going off in your holster. That's just a safe. Training. Pistol shooting is hard, right? We all know that. For those that have done, you need to learn the fundamentals, and you need to practice, right? I think a minimum is get out on the range once a month, once every other month. It would be the bare minimum, right? Now I know deputies who shoot once a year when they have to qualify, and they're lucky if they do, but it's not a good idea. You really want to be as proficient as you can, and do that. You need to be fast and accurate, right? If you're going to carry a gun for self-defense, you're going to have seconds to decide whether you need to do something or not. That could be the right thing, might be a good witness and get out of the way. You could do the typical thing we do with most strategies is run, hide, fight, right? And it's a good strategy for civilians, but every circumstance is different. But that basic philosophy of run, hide, fight is what you want to do. Bad guys are ambush hunters, right? They will come up on you and grab you from behind. They'll while you're standing at the ATM, while you're staring at your phone, they're going to be looking for advantages. So be aware of that, right? And then most of us don't get a chance to do it unless we actually practice at it, moving while you're shooting, right? If you go down to the indoor range, Shooter's World, that's fun to punch holes in a paper target. It's an expensive hole punch, but it's fun, right? But you're not moving. You can't put it in a holster. You can't draw from it. You can't shoot fast. There's a lot of things that if you're going to talk about defensive shooting that you're not going to be able to do in a scenario like that. So either if you end up going out to BLM land or you go to an outdoor range or something where you actually can do and move, or you work with someone who can do that, it's a good idea to try it. Not only that, it's a lot of fun. It's really fun to move and shoot. In terms of general wisdom, in terms of principles, avoid that false sense of security that, yeah, I got a gun, I'm good, right? Do not make the gun the hammer in your toolbox and all you see is nails. We'll talk just briefly about that in a bit. But yeah, don't make the gun's not your only tool. Your mind is your best defense, and that's really what you got to do. Work on awareness, work on avoiding situations, be aware what's going on, and you got the gun there. God forbid you need it, right? So you got that. Stay away from unsafe shooters. I have been on the range with people, and you're going, I don't know that guy, but I'm leaving, right? It is not worth it, right? To be around unsafe. You see guys fumbling around, they're doing this. Okay, I'm getting ready. How'd I do? And you're diving for cover. You got to be careful, right? So just be aware, and then give yourself time, right? No one pops up and just is instantly a great shot, right? Give yourself time, and then work on skills, right? There's a thing as instructors talk about is when you're building up skills, I want you to work in your comfort zone. Means you can stand there, sometime today hit that target. You take all day long and you get it, you hit it, right? Yeah, I'm a great marksman, right? So then I push people into what I call the uncomfortable zone. Faster than you can go, but slow enough that you know what you're doing, right? And then you got the uncontrolled, which you don't want to do, which is I can get that down there, no problem, right? So I can draw and shoot a gun in half a second. Can I hit it? Hell no, but I can sure do it. So you want to stay in that uncomfortable zone while you're building up your skill. You can do that depending upon where you are. Even at Shooter's World, you can do that. You can go from low ready, and you can give yourself half a second to get it up and fire the shot. Normally 1 second, you'd be fine, right? But I want to push myself. How fast can I get that there? And that builds your skill step by step, right? To do that. And then there's no such thing as one size fits all. You walk into a gun store and your wife wants to pick up a gun. Well, here's the perfect one for you. And I'll show you the example in a minute here. But every person's different. Every hand is different. Some people need to grip the gun slightly different. Some people need bigger grips, smaller grips, whatever. Heavier weights, there's a lot to think about. All right, types of defensive guns. Every gun is a possible defensive gun. So we've got a list. Shotguns, rifles, pistol caliber carbines, pistols, and revolvers, right? The distinction between a pistol and revolver is pretty obvious. We call them handguns, but for us, pistols are what we're going to talk about. Revolvers are not such a great choice for defense in the most part, right? Because of the capacity of the gun, not because of the ammo, not because the gun doesn't work, anything else, but typically you only have 6 or 8 rounds depending upon the caliber, and that may not be enough. And then reloading those things, I know from experience, is not very easy, even with speed loaders. It's like, we're not Jerry McCulloch, just do that in half a second, right? So I can remember sitting on the range under test for qualifications with my revolver. I had to carry a .357 revolver before they let us switch to pistols. And I got the speed loader out, and going, come on, get in there. It's just taken forever, right, to do that. So, in my opinion, and most people, the pistols are the best choice, right? This is for defense, whether it's home defense, for concealed carry, or for that middle of the road, right? Pistol caliber carbines. That's a picture of a pistol caliber carbine. The guy shooting a 9mm, right? And those are great for home defense in a sense. I mean, they're easier to aim than a pistol, right? And doing that, but they're a little bit bulky. They can be complicated, and a bit unusual. So if you don't practice with it, it's not going to be much better than a pistol that you do practice with. It's all the rest of them are like I said, pretty much out of the box, right? You might change the length of pole, you might change the foregrip or whatever, but you're not going to change that much on it, your optics and stuff like that. So those are the three things we're talking about. The gun is for, right? What to avoid? So what we're talking about in defensive pistols, your life could depend on it, right? You make a bad choice and oops, it doesn't work. Remember that bad guy that killed the CEO of United Healthcare?
Mhm.
His gun jammed when he was trying to assassinate that guy. It happens all the time. People pick up cheap guns and it doesn't work. There's a plethora of them. The price doesn't guarantee safety, reliability, or quality, right? I'll show you a $3,000 gun that's a piece of crap, right? So anyway, unsafe. Unsafe means there's something wrong with the gun, right? All three of these are basically built on, there's like a Venn diagram, right? So the reason why, for example, I put the most infamous one, the Sig Sauer P320. It's a series of guns. Sig has about 6 or 7 of them. I don't know how many they've got, right? They all run the same fire control unit. That's the part of the action inside. And there's a problem with the design of that, right? It makes the gun go off by itself if certain conditions are met, right? And it's a stacking of tolerances which gets you there. So you might have a perfect gun, and if it's built perfectly, no problem. But as soon as you add a little bit of tolerance off the sear, you let a little bit of tolerance off the trigger, the striker safety, and you add those things up, and all of a sudden it goes boom, wind it jiggles, right? It's like, ah. And there's videos of this thing going off and off. I do not allow 320s on my range at all, right? Most departments have stopped allowing them. I know the Rangers don't allow them, the Sheriff's Office doesn't allow them. We don't do that, right? So the gun is basically unsafe, and you don't want to do that. The other one that I like to pick on, and it's not unsafe in the sense of the mechanics of the gun, is the Shield EZ. I'll have a picture of it here in a sec, right? The Shield EZ is a bad design. And the only people that are going to tell you about it, most likely, is not the sales guy standing behind the counter wanting to make a profit off it. It's going to be the instructor who had some students going, that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work under stress. Why? Because of the way they grip it. Unreliable guns. These are guns that have gone through 1,000, 10,000 round tests, and they malfunction so often that they're a problem. Glock just came out with a brand new V series. This was their idea that they were going to stop people from being able to put a switch on the back, turn full auto, right? It took the bad guys 48 hours to develop a switch for this new one that was supposedly couldn't be converted to a full auto. This is not the same thing as the new generation of Glocks called the Gen 6, right? That's a different gun, right? These two, they only did 2 versions of it, the 19 and the 17, and they are so unreliable that you do not want to do that. They took an old slide because they had a lot of stock, they put it on top, they messed it up bad. So those kind of unreliables. Talk to knowledgeable shooters or instructors, and they'll kind of guide you through what's good. The Canik TTI Combat, believe it or not, tons of and there's huge fans of the guns. Canik makes great guns, but not that one, right? Too many malfunctions that go on. And this is the $3,000 Staccato HD P4, right? That's a $3,000 gun. Actually, the P4 is $2,600. The version they built after it, called the 4.5, cost $3,000. They tried to fix the stuff. Not sure I would really trust it, but at least they acknowledge that there's something wrong with that. And then there's poor design or quality control. And I didn't list any specifics because it would be way too long. But guns made by companies like Caltech, Sky, High Point, it's The guns might work. Skies barely work at all. I mean, you can't get through them, but they're cheap. $150, right? And so people will go in and buy one. The Sky makes them in pink and blue and all kinds of nice colors, right? It's not good. That's a picture of a G30 Glock 35. That's a 40 caliber pistol that blew up. As the guy probably put in a hot load because they're generally pretty reliable guns, but just the design of the gun isn't always the problem with it. Using the wrong ammo could also be a problem. And they don't really know why that one blew up, but I thought it was a good picture, right? You want to avoid that. This is the Shield EZ9, right? And I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if this will work or not. No.
Yeah, there
No,
we go.
it doesn't work on the other
Yeah,
one.
it did that.
Yeah, there you go.
Did it?
Oh, no.
It's not on the screen.
I'll just hit it this way. See this guy back here? This is the back strap of a pistol, right? So you have to push this in, the safety, in order for the gun to fire. Release the safety so that you can fire the gun. The hinge, this is the hinge for that back strap safety.
Okay.
What happens when the person grabbing the gun may be under a little bit of stress, maybe just practicing on the range, and they grab it and the top of their thumb comes right here. What happens? The safety doesn't go in, they can't fire the gun, right? So it was one of the very first guns I bought for Teresa. Teresa takes out the first time she's shooting and she goes, not working. Not working, not working. Move that hand all the way up. You want this hand way up here. But what if you can't grab it?
Yeah.
What if you can't? And that's why that's a bad design. The gun works great. And the slide on that is so easy to move. It's wonderful. But backstrap safeties are kind of interesting. All right, we're popping into, okay, we're getting down. What are we going to look at when we got to buy a gun? We got size, measure, caliber, field, barrel length, frame, capacity, reliability, dump man, good size, slide, controls, thumb safety or not, action. So you're going to walk in 15 minutes, decide which kind of gun you want, and then walk out? No. There's each one of these we could do a whole class on, right? So basically, I'm just covering in general what you need to look at when you're thinking about what gun's going to work for you, right? What's one that's going to do the best you can do there? Size matters.
I've been told that.
So they break pistols down into about 3 different sizes, right? This one up here in the upper left, that's a Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. That's my everyday carry. That's what I carry every day, right? That one over in the upper right, that's called a compact, right? They generally hold 13 to 15 rounds, typically 15. And it's that one there is a Shadow Systems in our that's Teresa's pistol that she runs. And then that bottom one there is a full size, right? So it's got it's got a longer barrel, 4 1/4 inch barrel, and those typically hold 17 plus rounds, right?
Is your carry a 3-inch barrel or less? The one you carry?
The one at the that's why I brought it. Here's the itty bitty barrel off my 3-inch barrel, right? So it's surprisingly accurate. I'll tell you that, but it's extremely comfortable to carry. It's light, but the slide's pretty long, right? It's not that little guy, right? This is the slide from one of my duty guns. And this is a full size slide. This is a so it's about a 1.5 inch longer, something like that. Competition's guns will be even longer than that. They'll add another inch onto it. They'll run 5-inch barrels, but Obviously, you're not going to conceal carry that, right? Barrels are significantly different. This is a much bigger barrel than the little guy I've got on there. Right? So that's what we're talking about there. And then the barrel for the medium one, Teresa's got a threaded barrel on there, so it adds an extra ½ inch to the barrel, but it's not really that big of a difference. So, all right. You can use a larger firearm. Full-size gun is great for home defense. You don't have to have it in your holster. You can have it staged. You can have it ready to go. It's great. You got 17 or more rounds, right? They're good for that. You got to think about which one is the person you're going to use the most, right? Are you going to carry all day long? You don't want to get a big, huge, full size one. After a while, it gets really heavy. But that little guy, the shield plus that I carry, I wear that all day long, every day, and you just get so used to it, you don't even know it's there. Right? Comfort while carrying, concealability. It's really hard to take something this big. This is a full size thing. You're going to be printing. You put a T-shirt or something over the top of that guy, and everybody in the whole world knows you're carrying it around, right? By the way, don't do open carry. That's just dumb. But it's so easy to see. A smaller pistol with just something like this with a little grip, much easier to hide. On the body is safer. That means it's somewhere on you all the time, right? Typically around your waist, right? Some people wear them in their ankle, and some women have bra holsters. But on the body, why is it safer? It's because you have control of it all the time. You don't lose it. It's not going to get stolen. You can access it faster, which gives you better security of that weapon, right? We have one, fanny packs that you can put a gun in. That's great if the situation calls for it. You don't know. Just know that it's going to take you some time to get that out, which plays fine if you do the run, hide, fight, right? Run away, hide, get ready. If you have to fight, then you fight, but hopefully you just get away, right? So it depends upon the scenario. You're not always in a race with quick draw, Western style, whatever they're doing. Budget, again, the cost of a gun doesn't equal the quality all the time. And there's good guns available to everyone. There are some really good Taurus G series guns that are nice and reliable. They actually build them on what was it? Benelli? Anyway, they build them on Berettas. Yeah. They build them on Beretta machines. They're not just like Keltec. There's TSAS makes that's a decent Turkish but they make a 1911 for $600 or $300 that shoots like $1,000. It just happens. You can find it, right? And when you buy a gun, you're buying a system, right? Most people nowadays, if you buy a pistol, you're going to buy an optic, right? So you go, here, I just found a $600 gun. Great, you just have a $300, $350 optic you're going to put on it, right? So now the gun's that much more expensive. We have some guns like the Ruger 380 is a really good gun, light rack. It racks great for women and for guys with arthritis who can't move very well. Excellent gun, but the optic is more expensive than the darn gun. So it's just the way it works out to be that. We'll talk about that. Budget-wise, plan on getting some training if you don't already have it or you're not to that level, right? You really need to know how to run the gun, right? There's this saying running around, buy nice, buy once, right? In other words, don't buy a crappy gun because you'll end up throwing it away and not use it. The basic ranges are less than 500. You can find some okay guns. $500 to $1,000 is a sweet spot for a pistol. And there's a ton of them in here, right, that are good. The $1,000 to $2,000, you get into some of the lesser expensive, but still good 1911 styles, 2011 styles, and then you got the crazy, right? Like the staccatos. Great gun for the most part, right? there's a couple models they have that I wouldn't get, but other ones are fantastic. But you're spending $3,000 for a pistol without the optic. Calibers. Gun guys like to talk about calibers all day long, right? When I was a deputy for the first few years, I carried a 45 because I thought if I hit the guy in the hand, I'd knock him down. That was so wrong. But the difference, balancing it out, basically we're talking about either 9mm or bigger, 10mm or 45, right? Bigger guns, the bullets are heavier, you got fewer of them, and the 9mm are there. FBI statistics show that it really doesn't matter what caliber you shoot the person with, all the way from a 22 long rifle to up to the 10mm. It doesn't matter. What matters is, did you hit the target and did you change that person's behavior? So I recommend 9mm. Why? Because it's ubiquitous. Everybody's got them. There's a million choices, and it's cheaper to shoot than any of the other ones. Right? Even a 380 is more expensive than a 9mm because of the supply and demand. So, but they're all there, right? They're all good. You can find good ones anywhere. Defense ammo versus training ammo. There are so many people that run around with their concealed gun and they carry training ammo in their pistol. You know, full metal jacket, round nose, just like the picture on the left. The one on the left there is a 9mm, right? And they'll carry that around. What happens with that full metal jacket round? You hit someone if you have to, and it goes right through them and dries. It's just like an ice pick. Just drives right through them and probably doesn't stop them very well, right? We all know of those cases where it took 12, 13 rounds to stop the person's behavior. And then you have the cases where it took one. You just don't know, right? It depends upon where they get hit. Right? Defensive ammo is typically ammo that's designed to penetrate just far enough and expand or fragment so that it causes a wound cavity that's big enough to change the behavior of the person you're dealing with, right? Or that is. And those are hollow points, right? They have various types, right? So at the sheriff's office, we carry a spear, gold dot, hollow points, and ballistic tests show it'll penetrate through the clothes, right? And it'll get into about halfway into the body cavity and then expand out, right? You've all seen the pictures of the mushrooms and all that. And this isn't about ballistics, but basically defensive ammo is high quality, precision made, and it's expensive, right? So I'll spend $1 a round for my defensive ammo, and I'm spending 20 cents a round for my training ammo. It's great for training, right? No problem. But if you're going to carry defensive rounds, and because you know, one, it's always going to go off, and two, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. It also has a tendency of not going through so many walls because you know, oh, I missed. Well, I hit the neighbor. You know, you don't want to do that. And no matter what, in defensive shooting, whether we're law enforcement or civilians, it's about stopping the threat, right? We used to run around and say, you're shooting to stop, right? Now we say you're shooting to change the behavior, because if the person stops attacking you, that's a change in behavior. That's good enough, right? And then you do that. So we're not shooting to kill. Okay, feel and fin. The most important part of shooting a pistol is, there are 3 parts, and instructors love to debate this, but grip, trigger control, and sight picture. Right? Why? Because everything else around the gun, when you break that shot, the gun has to be still and pointed exactly where you want it to go. Right? Everything else can be different. Right? I could shoot with 1 foot, and as long as that gun is pointed at the target where I want it to go, that's where it's going to go. Right? Before and after doesn't matter. Right? Does in a way, but I'm being general, right? So the grip greatly affects it, but sometimes you might only be able to get that much on there, right? It just depends, right? So, but you can, as long as this thing is pointed where I need it to go, I get my finger down there, and if I pull that trigger straight back, it's going to work. If you're in close, you might end up smashing the trigger. If you're far away, you want to use a little bit more trigger control in doing that. But those 3 things together are really the key way to do that. Your sight picture is what you're aiming at, right? So you have the sights lined up. If it's iron sights like this, then you got this guy lined up with this guy close enough and you're ready to go. At 3 yards, I don't care, right? At 15 yards, I do, right? So it just depends upon what we're gonna do. Slide weight, first of all, is how the grip feels. This is a model of a Glock. The angle is kind of European. It's a little bit forward, like you might see on the old Lugers or something. It's a little, so the Smith and Wessons and a lot of the other 1911s have a steeper angle on the grip, and for some people it's more comfortable. I know it is for me, right? And it just depends, right? So it doesn't matter what. There's no right or wrong. It's just what feels right to you. Does it feel good? Is the texture of the grip good, right? Slide weight means the rack. How hard is it to rack the gun, right? And there takes some training for people who have never done it before, because it's not just pinching it or pulling it like this, or doing the John Wick, you know, you know, it's you take the gun, you push forward, you hang on to this guy, and then you literally let it go, right? There's techniques to it, but you want to know slide weight, right? Because some women, like I'd sent Teresa to her first concealed carry class. I started with my old duty 45. She couldn't even pull the slide, right? It's only going to head out inside, right? So we laugh about it, but it's like, if you can't run the slide, you can't run the gun, right? Trigger weight means how much force does it take to pull a trigger. In a defensive gun, you always want to have at least 4 pounds, at least, right? 4 pounds of pressure. Competition guns will run 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds. Some guys are even less than that, right? That's too much. If you jerk, you get scared, and you've only got 2 pounds to go, you're going to break the shot, and you didn't want to. Right? Even 4 pounds, it's easy to do that if you're not practiced with it. Yeah. Break feel means when the shot breaks, does it feel like mush, Glock, right? Or does it feel like, you know, nice and crisp, right? So it's whatever feels right to you to deal with that, right? And then the reset is as the trigger is coming off the shot and just going back in to take another one. Some will have a distinct click, other ones won't, right? Smith and Wessons are famous for having a really mushy reset. You don't know when it's reset, right? So we fix them up to correct for that. But other guns like the Shadow, you pull that thing out and it's like click. You know you reset. You don't have to take your finger all the way off the trigger before you pull it again, right? So when you're looking at pistols, you want to, you go into the store and you go, I want to try this, right? You got to be able to rack it. You got to be able to pull a trigger. You got to be able to feel the reset so that you know how that trigger is. Does it feel good to you or not? Doesn't matter what it is for me. It's what's good for you. Trigger reach means how far, where does your finger naturally land on the trigger, right? It's how far is it from here to here for your hand, right? And sometimes it's too close and your finger ends up going too far over, or what you want to do is, where does your finger naturally land on the trigger, right? So you put it there and it's like, oh, pretty good. You pick up another gun and it's too far or too close and you go, ah. Some guns, like the Smith, you can actually change the thickness and the size of the back of the grip by adding a larger back strap to it. So now it works better for me. Like on mine, I run a large back strap on mine because my hands are big enough that I can get down to the trigger and it naturally lands there. And then the trigger shape, right? They have flat triggers, which everybody thinks is tactical, not necessarily, and curved, right? And then they have the combined ones, which is kind of a gradual curve, and then they might have a little notch at the bottom, so you index your finger on it, right? To where you do, it's whatever feels right for you, right? You'll see mine has a curved trigger on it, and that's because when you're under pressure, you want to make sure you get to the your finger lands in the same spot every time. With a flat trigger, I end up going up and down, right? And I'm traveling too much. So curved trigger, right where I wanted it to be. Thumb safeties. This guy here. This is a shot. This is the pistol I carry all the time. No thumb safety. This is the slide catch, right? There's no thumb safety. This is the thumb safety, right? So that thumb safety, I gotta take the thumb safety off before I can fire the gun. On the one on the left, just kind of pull the trigger. Right? There's 3 internal safeties. The gun's still safe. They're just equally safe. Some people just like the idea of having that thumb safety. It gets them. They feel good, right? It's no big. Neither one of those is any more safe than the other, right? They're both drop safe. They both work functionally perfectly well. That one with the thumb safety just has an extra one. Instead of 3 safeties, it's got 4. Right? This is a 1911 style, 2011s. So this is the thumb safety here, right?
Yep.
And this is the thumb safety here. The design of these guns require a thumb safety. You cannot get one without, right? The interesting thing is that this part right here is the backstrap safety. We all remember that from the old days, right? This is the staccato without a backstrap safety, right? So you can get some thing. This is a $3,000 one. They tried to fix the 4. That's the thesis that's cheap, that shoots like a gun 3 times as expensive. So the thing about a thumb safety is it's either one's okay, but you got to practice with it. Because for me, I carry a duty weapon that is no thumb safety. None of my guns have thumb safeties. So I'm drawing and shooting all the time. If you put one of those in my hand and I had to draw and shoot it, I would probably forget to take the thumb safety off. Probably. And then a lot of people forget to put it back on when they put it away. Right? So if that safety is off and you drop it, that's not good. Right? It could go off. Okay, I'm going to go real quick. Right? Barrel length. Barrel length is directly related. It's going to determine how big your slide is, how big the gun is, right? Short barrels, basically they run 3, 4, and 5 inches, right? For the barrel size. It doesn't matter what length it is for good defensive ammo to work, right? It's not like, oh, I need a 5-inch barrel in order to make that thing really work. They're all fine for our defensive work. Accuracy is basically equal in the distances that we're talking about for self-defense, 15 yards and in, right? There's not much reason why you would need to be shooting at someone 25 yards away unless they were actually charging you. That's really sight radius means the distance between the back sight and the front sight. It's a lot easier to aim if you got to line these 2 guys up if it's longer, right? If it's a short one, that's really hard, right? So that's what that's talking about. And a shorter barrel or a lighter gun will feel snappy. It'll kick a little bit sharper, right? So it does on those things. Frames, they make them out of steel, aluminum, and polymer. Almost all guns nowadays are made out of polymer, but they do make some nice ones out of aluminum, and steel are pretty much the old ones. Guys who really like those guns and like competition guys, they want a heavier gun. But for weight-wise and for performance-wise, polymer is fantastic. They're a little bit cheaper to make, and they have excellent accuracy. Right? We'll get there. Action. Pistols come in three guys. Striker fired pistol, which means there's a firing pin inside in the side of the slide. There's not a hammer back out here, right? Striker, the triggers, the way they work is you'll pull it in for a way, and you're going to take up what we call pre-travel. So you're going to move a little bit, and you're going to hit what we call a wall. It's like, oh, if I move that another 1/16 of an inch, that sear's going to drop, and it's going to break the shot, right? So it's essentially a 2-stage trigger. 1 stage getting up to the wall. Second, you break that shot. That's the 2nd stage, right? Now you can just smash that trigger. The gun will think you're really jerking it around unless you're used to doing that. But basically, if you're doing an accurate shot with a 2-stage trigger, you pull it up to the wall and you break the shot, right? And there's less movement around. Double actions, right? Now those are typically hammer, either internal or external hammer fired, like a SIG P220, right? Double action means as I pull the trigger, the hammer's coming back. That's 1 action. Once the trigger goes far enough, the hammer drops. That's how revolvers work. Same thing with the internal ones. Double action, single action means I'm going to pull the trigger a long ways. It's a long, it's typically 8 or plus pounds. Pull it, it's going to go all the way back, and then it's going to drop, but then it's going to stay, the hammer's cocked each time. Then it's just real simple. That's how 1911s typically, well, and then the single action is a single stage, right? That means you pull that trigger, it's going off, right? The hammer's ready to go. That's what the 1911s are like, right? So they're really light triggers. They feel great, right? But those are the 3 types. You have to decide which type you want. Right? If you're getting a striker fired gun, you're getting the 2-stage. There's a frame and slide, and the frame is the part of the gun that holds all the working components. I just did a top shot to show you what the action looks like inside there. So it's got all kinds of mechanisms here, the trigger bar, and all kinds of fancy stuff. Right? Magazine capacity is a big deal, the whole idea in defense is how many rounds do you have to shoot to stop a guy. It's not like TV where it's 1 round and the guy flies out the door, or yeah. Interesting thing about defensive shooting, and we talk about it a lot in law enforcement, is you don't see where the round goes. You have to trust your sight and your aim, and you don't know. You don't know if you hit them or not until they change their behavior. Right? That means they fall down. That means they stop charging. Something changes, right? And that's really how you know. So the whole idea of shoot, peek, that's not a good training habit. Average capacities, you can see that magazine. The bigger the magazine, the harder it is to conceal the gun. When I carry a 10-round magazine that's nice and compact on that pistol, but when it's at home, it's a 13-round. Right? So you just switch it. Feature to look for: dot mounts. We'll get there. You want high definition sights. Fiber optics or tritium sights are really good to use if you're going to use iron sights. Comfortable grip. How easy is this rack? This is the main one. Do the controls. Can you reach the controls on the gun with your hands and do that easily? If you're left-handed, does the gun have an ambidextrous mag release? Or maybe if it doesn't, you might end up having to figure out how you're going to operate that gun if you want it, right? So left and right. Dot optics, that's these guys, right? On most pistols. They're pretty much standard nowadays. They will literally make you twice as fast, maybe even faster, right? Because you're not pulling your focus from the threat or the target back to the front sight to make sure you're lined up, and then back to the target to deal with it. Right? So what's going on. You just look through this window, and then you drop this guy over the top. They're pretty much standard nowadays. It also aligns with our natural physiology as an instructor. That's what we're talking about. You're under stress. What do? You're going to focus on the threat, and then do you have to remember that? It's like I don't. So, weapon-mounted lights. They're cool. They're great. I like them, especially 65% of all shootings or incident, fight shots, whatever you want to call it, incidents happen at night. 65%. But you never clear your house or search with your weapon light. Don't do it. Only time you light that up is when you've already identified a threat, and now you got to light it up and make sure you're doing what you're going to do. Right? It does, and then the tip is always have a tactical flashlight, and that means a really bright one that you can run. Right? They have tons of them out there. Olight makes a great one. But these things are typically 1,500, 1,000 lumen. They will blind the person. When you're checking out who's at your door, you accidentally hit them in the face. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, because you just ruined their night vision, right? And that's an advantage for you. Other things: mag releases, extensions, compensators, gas pedals. Gas pedals are things that go right up here on the side. You rest your thumb on. Magazine extensions, mag wells. They're all unnecessary for everyday carry, but they make the gun run better. Right? This is my duty weapon. That optic on the top is enclosed. This one here is enclosed. There's a window on this side and a window on this side, which means that dust, dirt, and rain and water don't get in there. It's really nice and sealed up, right? This one, the most common type, is called an open reflex. There's no glass in the back, it's just in the front. So what happens there is that you can have debris and you know, if you're carrying everybody carry, lint is gonna land in there and dust and dirt. If you're outside in the rain, it's gonna get on the inside and it makes it harder to run. It's just this one there has a weapon mounted light. You can see that there on the front bottom. This one has a magwell. It's a mild magwell. That's this part right here. Right there. And then this is a magazine extension. Now, I didn't add any more rounds. I still carry 17 rounds. But what this does is it allows me to grip it so I can rip it out. When I have to take a magazine out, I want to be able to pull that thing out, because if I have a Type 3 malfunction, that thing won't necessarily drop out by gravity. You see guys running around doing this, flicking things. You want to play John Wick, flick the magazine across the room. It's done. You want to get that magazine out in one motion. So you're up here, you pull it out, and then you're ready to go. The magwell helps guide it in. Some guns, like the Shadow or the Glock, have a bit of an angle on the bottom part here. Smith & Wessons don't. They're square. So everybody around the Smith & Wesson is going, trying to get the darn thing in there, and they can't, right? So those things really help a lot. It has a 4.5 pound trigger. This is a special trigger. There's a curved trigger, as you can see. So this guy here, that means my finger's going the same place every time. This is a trigger safety, so that pulls in, then it goes back here. So it's and it's a 4.5 pound, as I said. And the last thing, you can't see it there, but this thing has a fitted barrel, right? So as a gunsmith, I work on these things. That's a custom barrel that takes the average group size of 25 yards for this pistol is about 6 inches. It's 5 to 6 inches, depending on the ammo, right? That barrel there, it locks up. In other words, the way that it's held by the slide in the frame, it's fit so well that it has a 1 inch group at 25 yards. Now, I can't do that. I'm a terrible shot, right? But that's the ability of when you want to fix or upgrade your guns, that's what that's doing. Holsters, like I said, they have to match the point. These are the 4 points down below. The holster must be able to protect the trigger, right? You got to cover the trigger, right? And the trigger guard. It has to retain the firearm. I got a video of a guy doing breakdancing and the gun falls out, he picks it up and he shoots it. And no one got hit in the crowd, but it was dumb. Right? Holster has to stay attached to the body when you draw the gun. You don't want to pull the whole thing out and have the holster come with it. I've done that. And then you should allow the full grip of the gun. So you want the grip exposed so when you grab it, you're ready to go. Right? So take your time deciding, right? Get advice from instructors or people that you trust who know what they're doing with guns. Not the salesman, friends and family sometimes, but not usually. And especially avoid the YouTube experts. There is so much bad info out there, I'm telling you. It's amazing, right? Many gun owners assume that if you've got a reliable gun, you've been to the range a couple times, you're good to go. Okay? Don't do that, right? You got to know when the use of lethal force is justified. Not get yourself into trouble by pulling the gun, brandishing it, or anything else unless you know that you're justified in doing so. Right? Arizona's got good laws, but you're still going to get yourself in big trouble if you overreact to that. So the guy carrying the TV out your door, don't shoot him. You just ruined your life for nothing, right? For a TV. Know how to proficiently use your gun. Get good with it, right? One of my best friends when I was a deputy was a Navy SEAL, and he was like, John, just get good with one gun. You don't need 10 of them and be average with all of them. Just get good with one, right? Do that. I took a class, Sean Klauser, what's that guy's name? Anyway, he used to be a prosecutor here in Arizona. In passed along some information. He claimed to the FBI, I have not verified it, 80% of the shots are missed at 10 feet, right? 90% of the shots are missed at 20 feet. Right? 10 feet is 3 yards, right? And I can verify that in a just recent home invasion. A guy, he was in his 70s. He had a 2-story house. It's up here. He hears the door break in, and he grabs his gun. He comes around the trace at the top of the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, there's the bad guys, right? And they have a gun. He fires 5 shots. He hit the guy once. And so he just proved that 80% missed, right? The guy ran away and eventually was caught, and when he went to the hospital. Lastly, legal protection. Invest in self-defense, in insurance, right? One of the most popular ones is USCCA. I used to belong to them for a long time. They're actually a real insurance company, and I have some real issues with that. That's just me. I recommend attorneys on retainer, AOR, right? The reason I do is because they're not an insurance company. I've already retained them as my attorney, right? They will not, and because they're an insurance company, I don't know if they could even do it. They're not going to come after me. USCCA has done it on a couple really infamous cases where they defended someone, and the woke DA decided that they were going to file charges against the person who was trying to defend themselves, and they wanted their money back. So give us back the $150,000 we just spent on them. And that's the short version of it. AOR is based in Chandler. These guys will take second chairs. So those of us in law enforcement, we have PORAC, or we've got FLEA, and those associations which have attorneys which represent us. If we get into it and shooting, AOR will take second chair on that as well, even if we're on duty. So that means that the other ones will go, you already got an attorney, we're out of here, right? They don't do that. So I don't get anything for it, but I really like them. They're really good. And then, shooting is a perishable skill. Defense scenarios are always stressful, always, right? We go through drills, practicing it, and I'm always amazed how many times I get shot or I shoot the wrong person. I shot the guy with a pen. Darn it. Don't make the firearm your only tool. Your mindset is your strongest weapon. Practice being aware of what's going on around you. Don't have your head buried in the fan. Get your kids and your wife not to watch the front while they're walking around. Pay attention, right? Most of the situations you can avoid, right? Remember when they had all the riots and stuff like that? It's like, if I saw something, I'm turning around. I'm not gonna go be like, and then get some good coaching, right? And once you get the fundamentals down, you got that. There is no such thing as advanced shooting. I like to say there's only perfect execution of fundamentals, right? So the better you get at shooting the fundamentals, the more advanced you are. But these guys, I'm an advanced shooter. Well, what does that mean? It means you can do the fundamentals really well, right? Or not, right? So that's there we are.
Great.